Every day, you essentially pay your dues by doing the harder thing when it's the right thing to do.
What's important for the listeners to understand about my approach, if they don't already know, it's very simplistic. So, it could almost be looked at as being like, is that it? Is that Nick's approach? But yeah, that is it. And in good reason. I think our competitive advantage, or one of them now as coaches, is to try and simplify, because we're just getting overwhelmed with all the potential ideas that we could incorporate into a program, and many of which are very, very good. But if you don't, kind of skim that or filter those exercises so that you're left with just a narrow selection, you're probably going to be doing too much. And that does tend to happen a lot when I'm going into gyms and coaches are, struggling to understand why a skill is not improving. It's essentially because they're not giving any one drill or one skill time to improve. They're trying to do so many things with it that, how much time can you spend on 10 drills in one bar session? So right. Yes, you're getting a lot covered, but you're not going into depth with any of them. And ultimately, when it comes to bars, repetition is going to be one of the most important aspects of how much an athlete learns. So, stripping away a program is as good as adding things in. And I think that's an important thing for the listeners to understand, and also just be comfortable with potentially like a bit of a fear of missing out, I guess. Like, you might see an exercise, you see a drill, it looks fantastic, but just put it through your filter to start with and go, well, is that actually what my athlete needs right now? Like, is that the missing part of the puzzle? I love Italian cooking. I like going to an Italian restaurant when you know that the only ingredients they're going to be cooking with, and here it comes, is basil instead of basil. Okay, but you've got tomatoes, you've got fresh pasta, a bit of garlic, salt, pepper. There's not much else that goes into their food, like a couple of different things, but there's not much that goes in. But what they're able to do with those ingredients is to create a masterpiece, because those ingredients are of the most exceptional standards. They're completely fresh, they're handmade from trusted suppliers. And the message here, I guess the analogy is that you can create a masterpiece with your gymnasts just using a finite number of ingredients, as long as they are of an exceptional quality. So that's my philosophy when it comes to bars. Yeah. And I just, really encourage the listeners to do the same thing. Addition by subtraction, take stuff away in order to improve. That I talk a lot about the balance between standards and expectations. And your expectations, I believe, should be on a sliding scale. There are times where you should have super high expectations of what the athlete is doing. There are times when we have to lower our expectations. It could be that the athlete's tired. It could be that it's a new skill, so our expectations can't be high. They might be coming back from injury or holidays, just as some examples. As we approach competition, our expectations are more likely to be higher. If they're performing a skill that they've consolidated, our expectations are most likely to be high. So that's on a sliding scale. But our standards, to me, are something that we don't ever lower. Our standards represent our understanding of a skill. So new emerging coaches won't have high standards because they've yet to be exposed or have the knowledge of what a high standard is. So let's take a backward giant, for example, a emerging lower level coach that's maybe entering the sport, doesn't have much experience, won't recognize that the arms need to be completely straight and the ears need to be covered as the athlete shifts, and the shift needs to happen at a certain point, and we want them to hang underneath the bar as low as possible. All of that kind of stuff. They'll see the athlete circling around the bar, and that might be okay for them because, hey, they're doing a backward giant, right? So our standards are something that we should always strive to improve. And that, for me, just comes through knowledge, gaining new knowledge, gaining new experience. Now, I'm not bashing anyone here that hasn't got the experience, because we've all been there. And I'm still there on many different skills as well, of having, not having complete clarity of what I'm trying to do. So like you said, mentorship, research, spending times in high performing environments, going to gyms where exceptional bar work is just part of what they do, then that's how you're going to raise your own standard. And then it's down to you to be able to communicate that in a effective way to your athletes to try and raise their performance. And right. that's the key. Now, you've heard me talk about themes before, I think, Dave, and I just think they're really powerful. So, having your athletes get their grips on and, you know, have a little pep talk at the beginning and essentially just outline what the expectations are of that session to create some intention behind it. You know, today, girls, we are focusing on covering your ears. I'd like to see that in your backward giants. I'd like to see it in all your handstands. And why don't we just start with a couple of exercises on the floor to help us all understand exactly what I'm after? So yeah, line your back with your arms covering your ears. Great. Now let's all do a handstand. Now let's do a back extension roll to handstand and make sure your ears are covered. Oh, look, I've got a video here of a gold standard example. Can you see? The ears are covered throughout the whole skill. Bam. Right. Now that is how I'm going to judge whether this training session on bars has been a success or not, because we've created intention behind it then. The athlete knows exactly what you want, and then all your feedback will be related to that theme. That's how you make big strides in a single training session. Yeah. So I only do this in two examples. One would be a dismount, a high level dismount, and the other one would be Tkachev. So, and in not in all cases, there will be some kids that will do a Tkachev with the feet down in between the bars still, and the same for the dismount. But I would be happy to use an over the bar tap for those skills, particularly a Tkachev, because it's, for me, it generates the most amount of amplitude and swing. There's a safety aspect involved with dismounts. I'm like super wary of that, because I've seen so many dismounts go wrong. And it's just something, you know, not just the flyaways, but when you're stepping into the world of you know, back in full outs and you know, double pike dismounts, we really do have to consider safety here and making sure that the athlete is a comfortable, consistent, safe distance away from the bar. So there's sometimes if I'm not able to trust that the athlete can do that safely, I will take a 0.1 deduction on the knees with them hanging over the top of the bar, because you just got to weigh it up and go, well, you know, first of all, there's nothing more important than safety. And two, if I can guarantee almost that the athlete is going to be in a consistent position release, but the cost of that is just a 1/10 deduction over the low bar, then, you know, there's a good chance I'm going to take that. So they can do like a little audit of their bar preparation work. Let's get the coaches looking at their kids' handstands. So literally just ask them to do a 30-second kick to handstand on a hard floor, and remove all your bias about what you believe that gymnast can do. Just look at that handstand. Is it balanced? Is it in the correct position? Are the arms completely straight? Are they extended? Can you see the ears? Just take it for what it is. Take a photo of it and see what that handstand looks like. That's one skill. The next one's going to be a back extension roll to handstand, or a backward roll to handstand, as we would say. Okay. If the athlete can't do that without exposing their ribs, so basically moving that, you know, opening their chest, exposing their ears, arching their back, you know, all those sorts of things. If they can't do it without am I getting this right, the way I'm saying this? They need to be able to do that correctly, Dave, which is what I'm saying. Okay, so if they're opening their chest or bending their arms or sticking their head out, then the preparation work is just not right at that stage. Fix it, work on it. The next thing is going to be looking at their swing. How high do they swing? How consistently do they swing? What are the shapes that they're showing? And the final one is going to be a candlestick dismount release position. Okay, supported. So, you know, taking the wrists or however the coaches want to spot that. So just kind of do a little basic audit of those four elements. If I was to add one more in there, it would be a sole circle, like a toe circle, where they keep the feet on. They just do sort of 5 or 6 in a row. And again, I'm looking for great shape, smooth shift. Yeah, there we go. So smooth shift of the wrists, absolute straight arms, keeping the ears covered, all the same qualities we want in a backward giant. That's why those toe circles or monkey giants are so important. So those would be kind of the 5 basic fundamental skills that I'd ask the athlete to perform. And you've just got to strip away all your bias and just go like, where are we at? Like, really, where are we at?